Welcome back to story time. There is something I didn't say in that last video where I was talking about the lady who said I was going to come to her church. I felt when she looked at me and told me I was going to come to her church, she wasn't just telling me that. I literally felt her commanding me. And I don't remember if I ever felt that or used those words before that time right there. I felt her commanding me, even though it looked on the surface like, oh, you're going to come to my church, you're going to come to my church. And I had this instinctive feeling like, you can't command me. So when I had the dream where I was like, no, and I knew she had walked in, um, it was an instinctive response to that initial command. So it wasn't just that she was just saying, you're going to come to my church. No. So there are people that they talk to us, um, and you may feel it in your spirit, like you're saying something, you're saying something here, and your energy is on a whole different level. What you're saying doesn't line up with your words. Like you're commanding me to walk into your church. And now I'm thinking about it, it's like she probably was there and went to different women's gatherings to collect people for her church. And for my mentor to tell me, a lot of our women are being destroyed by this type of thing, it's because these people are overshadowed. They're not all necessarily bad people, evil people, but we don't have our culture. They hear something, everything they hear, they feel, unless it's just obviously bad, they feel that they're hearing from God. So they don't even realize their own level of um, manipulation. Because unless it's something glaring, they will be very quick to say, God told me this, God told me that. I never would say God told me anything. Because who am I to say God told me? Do I know that? I just know what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing. So I would always talk from that place. And I would always like kind of literally admire people who would be like, God told me, and thus said the Lord, and God this and God that. But when I came up close and personal to that, I realized that everything that they were putting God's name in front of had nothing to do with God. It had to do with them, but they weren't even discerning the difference. Just they hear and follow what they hear. They just say, oh, well, this is God. God told me this and God told me that. And it's not all God. This is where the significance of our culture comes in, because now you're discerning. Our people in the Christian tradition, you'll say, oh, I'm a prophet, I'm a prophetess. But the truth is, the reality being what actually is that all of our people have this capacity to communicate at very high levels. Now, personal development is key to that, right? Because the things that we hear and what we perceive, the messages we receive, are coming through the background of our experiences. So depending on how you cleaned up your emotional clutter or debris, to the degree that you have, the messages that come through you will be, they'll be much more clear, right? I so that's that. But I remember having a dream when I believe, I believe I was a teenager at this time. I think I can't remember exactly, but anyway, the dream was about me going to church. I was raised Seventh-day Adventist, and we would have evening service called MV, Missionary Volunteers. I think they call it an AYS, Adventist Youth Service, or something like that today. But back then it was called MV, and it would always start like around 4. So I found myself walking from my home to the church, and this service would always be in the basement in that area. is where that more informal meeting would take place. And so I remember walking in there and seeing people on the stage, like starting to fall asleep, and people in the audience starting to fall asleep. And so I go on the stage and I'm like shaking them. I'm trying to wake them up. And they're not just falling asleep. It's like this really, really deep sleep that, like, they're almost like comatose, right? And I'm going through on the stage trying to wake them. I'm like, wake up, like something is wrong. And I don't remember if I'm going into the audience, but I'm at least, it's not like a whole bunch of people, but it's enough. And I'm trying to wake them up, and I feel myself, I feel this heaviness come over me. And it's interesting that I'm saying that now, because in another video I said anytime I feel the wayward spirits, there's a heaviness that comes, that threatens to come over me. And but that's what I was feeling in there, just falling into a very, very deep sleep. And I literally had to run out of there before, because I knew it was going to be too late for them. And there wasn't one person literally that was responding. And I could only see that as a premonition of what is happening to our people today, who are so enamored, and not to their fault. We don't know what we don't know, but some of them are so hostile to information about themselves and their own history. It's a level of self-hatred that is absolutely it's absolutely startling. They are literally like violently opposed to anything. I had this man tell me, "Oh, um, I'm not hearing you say anything about the Bible, and I'm Bible based, and this and that," and getting into a huff of and I was sharing something with him, and I was just sharing my own personal journey, my own personal experience, before I even got to the part where I was going to help him. And I didn't always understand when our people who understood our history would say that our people are self-hating, because the man had lost his wife. And I don't know if he had lost his dad or what, but on the very next page of the slides that I was showing was a picture of his wife celebrating 7 years of their marriage. But he was so put off by my personal experience, by hearing Ian Levan Sant's name, hearing me say the word spirituality, level, and actually have the audacity to tell me, well, you know what, I've I've been in prison, and I've dealt with people who are Muslim and who are Christian, and pretty much like discuss things about the Bible, but I don't hear you talking anything about the Bible. So you're telling me you can talk to criminals about the Bible, but you can't talk to your sister. And so that's what I'm saying, like that dream was like a premonition for the condition of the minds of some of our people, how asleep they are to who they are, and absolutely refusing to hear, which has me wondering, are these really truly disordered beings? Are they really, they may be disordered spirits, and that's why I understand us not even recognizing our culture because of the conditioning and the programming. But when you can't hear your own sister or brother, and you want to give a story about, you've been in prison dealing with criminals, but the word spirituality and the name Ian Levan Sant, they're so troubling to you that you can't hear anything else. And you don't even know, you don't realize that even a picture of the person that you claim to love so much is on the next page. You can't even hear enough to see what is being presented to you. So you have all of these preconceived ideas, and I'm sure you're praying for some things, and the very things that you're praying for at one level, you're pushing away at the next. It's why it's so important for us to know who we are and to embrace who we are, and release the self-hatred, because that's what it is. Hatred is a rejection. And so when we reject who we are, we end up suffering. We suffer already because of that lack of identity. We suffer in ways that we don't even realize. And because again, we don't know what we don't know. So it really behooves us at minimum to listen, because we don't know what is being presented. To act as if you know what is being presented to you before it's being presented is really is presumptuous. And the truth is that you don't know, you made it up. And so you're not even operating in this space and this time. You're traveling through time and space, but you're literally being flung by your past experiences, not by reality, not by what is actually taking place right here, right now. So meet me in the next video.